Giardino, you want to follow up?
Absolutely. We have two of our largest businesses in North Reading are Walmart and the post office, and in uses of square footage, and that's two businesses that have had substantial difficulty with their septic. We are not. I think it's important that people understand that the future, the possibility of receiving large businesses here is not likely unless we can get septic. Now, that isn't the end of the story, though. There is the half of the land that's over at the J.T. Berry Center, all right, is designed for industrial. Half of it's residential, half of it's industrial. Okay, that area will have its own wastewater treatment. Okay, and that area is the area. One of the next things I do, all right, is to begin pushing that developer to try to get some business in there. He's been very slow to move on that, and I think that's something we need to do, is to push that area.
And Mr. Delaney, do you want to take another minute?
If I could, please, thank you. The other thing, which I left out, was MWRA. Speaking to Dave Hanlon, presently, MWRA is not allowing us to tie in to their water supply. However, I would work closely with Representative Jones and Senator Tarr and push MWRA to allow us to tie in to their water supply. And in my discussions with various people that are familiar with water usage, water supplies, if we tie into MWRA, we will reduce our water costs significantly in this town. Another savings to you as residents and taxpayers in this community. That also is an avenue that we should be pursuing.
We're back to the first rotation, which will be to Mr. Giardino first, and I think we're going to get a little more specific here. As the Hillview debt is paid off, what do you think will be the best use of the Hillview enterprise profits?
Well, the Hillview, the use of the Hillview money is strictly limited. It cannot be used to go into the general government and to pay general government expenses. There are a number of projects which I think are viable that we could talk about as we go ahead. A lot of what we've talked about in the future of the schools, in the future of the possibility of building a high school, a joint high school and middle school, issues like that. All right, it is possible to use this funding not for the schools, but in fact to maintain the fields. So the possibility of turning fields into and fields would qualify, if owned by the Hillview, would qualify for funding, and that is the type of thing that you can do with, and that is what we did in effect with the tennis courts. We were able to use Hillview money to pay for the tennis courts. We were able to use Hillview money to pay for a kids spot. That's the type of thing you can use Hillview money for. You can't use it for general government, but I think if we are creative, as we have been in the past, all right, we can find ways to get the Hillview money to fund issues that benefit the community as a whole. So I think that's critical. The Hillview is a great group that have come up with a lot of terrific ideas on their own of how to fund matters. They've been really the leading edge in funding a lot of these issues, from Kids Spot to Ipswich River Park, the tennis courts, another good example, and so on. So I think there is a number of ways it can be used, and one of the things I think that about North Reading residents is that they have a strong sense of creativity, and I think we'll find lots of ways to use that money.
Mr. Delaney on the Hillview.
Although the Hillview funds are limited in terms of what they can be used for, I do agree with Mr. Giardino that given the fact of the state of the condition of the middle school and the high school, and the fact that my meeting with Dr. Trutman revealed that unfortunately at the present time that project is on hold because the State School Building Association, when the town went to apply for reimbursement and also additional projects, they were limited to one project that they could push. And the decision was made to push the bat shelter and seek reimbursement there. So going forward, if we can get Hillview funds to fund the athletic fields, get a public-private partnership to also secure additional funding for those particular areas to reduce the ultimate cost to the taxpayers, whether it be eventually a new middle school or a new high school, or a rehab of the middle school and the high school. The funds have to be used in that particular way to reduce the tax burden. Any way that we can do and use the Hillview funds in that regard is a benefit to the taxpayers of this community.
And Ms. Mitchell on Hillview?
On the Hillview, I agree with both my opponents that any open space initiatives that we could use the money for to enhance how we recreate and hopefully how our children can go out and get out away from the television is excellent.
Okay. And, are you, you're
Yes.
okay.
Well,
You
seem
have,
to be all in
again,
agreement.
there's the minute for rebuttal or follow-up, if you want to use it. Mr. Dardano? Do you wanna-
I had met with Catherine Craven of the state on the batch issue, as well as on the high school issue, and the decision was made to go for the batch reimbursement, and I'm really proud that we are going to get that money to reimburse this town for that project. Certainly, the indication from them is certainly that they understand the need, and they absolutely support a high school and middle school renovation. I think that that's something that needs to be explored as we go ahead. It's not a simple issue. It's complex, but I do think that the use of all resources, including how the Hillview fits in there, is going to be critical decisions as we go ahead.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mr. Delaney, do you want another minute?
No, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to put two questions together here. I've talked a little about commercial development. So the two questions are, what are 3 ways you would recommend to increase the commercial base? And the second is, do you support a dual tax rate? So if, and again, that will go to Mr. Delaney first. So I think these two questions go together well.
On the current, I'll take the second first if I could.
Okay, sure.
Under the current conditions in this community, and the fact that the commercial base is so insignificant at the present time, going to a dual tax rate at this particular point in time is not in the best interest of this community. That will not bring in additional revenue to this town. It may, in fact, cause existing commercial businesses to exit North Reading. However, going forward, once the wastewater project comes in, and once commercial buildings go up in this town, once they become mature, at that time, this town must take a look at the single tax rate and determine whether or not, at that time, it's the best interest of this town to go to a dual tax rate. I reviewed a study that was done by one member of the Finance Committee in which he took a look at geographically the surrounding towns and without a certain particular radius, in which he played with some numbers to see whether or not, if you switched to a dual tax rate presently, what would that mean in terms of the residential taxpayer under the current condition? It would not mean a significant decrease in your tax bill. In fact, it may have a negative effect if, in fact, commercial businesses would then exit to go to surrounding communities. So at the present time, do not support a dual tax rate. It could be something, and should be something looked at in the future. In terms of commercial development, wastewater needs to come in first, as I indicated in my earlier answer. And at that point, then the marketing plan goes into place, and you attract the businesses. The businesses will come, as they say. If you build it, they will come. And that's what we need to be a mature community. Look at Reading. Look at Andover. Look at your surrounding towns.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Mitchner, I don't know if I messed up combining these two questions. It does look like,
Could you repeat the first one again?
Okay.
With the 3.
you know, how about this? I hate to go there. How about if we just do the tax rate and then give you another shot? Because I see you can talk a lot more about the dual tax rate than I thought. So why don't we just stick to the dual tax rate question, if you don't mind? And then we'll go back to this one, which is also a good question. So it's, do you support a dual tax rate?
I do support a dual tax rate in time. I unfortunately actually am going to echo much of the sentiment that Mr. Delaney has just stated, that upon establishment of the sewer system in town and a broader commercial base, I do think we need to look to that to increase our revenue.
Okay, and Mr. Giardino?
Thank you. I have consistently voted against the dual tax rate, and the dual tax rate is a very interesting issue. It is a very successful and appropriate thing to do in a town that has multinationals, okay, that brings in a broad base of people to shop in that region. Now, for instance, Burlington has a dual tax rate. Well, Burlington is classic. They've got a number of multinationals and corporations from all over the world, okay? They've got a shopping base that goes from all up and down the 128. What does North Reading have? Well, North Reading tends to have businesses that are mostly small businesses, okay? Most of the owners of these businesses live in town. A large number of the owners of these businesses in North Reading live in North Reading. So what are we really doing? We're shifting the burden from residents to residents. That's really what we're doing, okay? And worse than that, because these businesses are shopped at by North Reading residents, right, the burden will go from the business to other North Reading residents. So the value of doing the dual rate in North Reading is not really a very good idea. And not only that, but it has the potential to drive away business. Okay, so all being said, and if you look at the numbers, the fact is, I'm a numbers guy. The fact is that the numbers tell you, okay, that the base is small, and the result is, in order to get any true tax savings to individuals, all right, the shift has to be so large as to make it an astronomical tax on the businesses. And as I say, that's only going to be passed on to the individuals. Now, when we get multinationals, okay, when we get a sewage system and we get multinationals, that's the time to consider it. But not right away either, because when you go for multinationals, you want to be able to say, we've got a lower tax rate than Burlington. Come here. Don't go to Burlington. Come here. So that's the principle.
Okay, so if we could go on to the original question, and I kind of messed up here, and this would go to Ms. Michener first, and that question is, what are 3 ways you would recommend to increase the commercial base?
3 ways to increase the commercial base. Of course, we've been talking a lot about the sewer. Of course, we need that to come in. In addition to that, probably marketing North Reading would be a very good idea, as Mr. Delaney stated earlier. And the 3rd way to draw in a larger commercial base. It's awkward silence. I would say I'm not quite sure on that one yet.
Okay. So, and Mr. Giardino, we'll go back to the 3 ways you would recommend to increase the commercial base.
You know, the clearest way, the quickest way for us to increase our tax base is to work with the developer at the old J.T. Berry site. That facility is right off 93. It has the most potential to be developed fairly quickly and increase our tax base. It will not have the sewage problems that Concord Road has and the 28 has. So it really has and I think it is an issue that I want to see in my next term to be one of the top priorities is to meet with Gutierrez. Now, they have said to us that the economy has resulted in them not being able to move that property, and that is something that he's got a point on. Clearly, the economy is not good. It's not a good time to get new businesses to come here. I think that, but it is an item that's so critical to us. I'd like to see us be more proactive in trying to work with him to get him to do this. Now, the long-range plan to increase the industrial tax base, of course, is sewage. It is the way to get this to happen. The 3rd item, I'm running out of time, and the 3rd item is to work with